Let's move to Georgia here, because I think Georgia and North Carolina could be the big sort of sleeper stories. Tell us what's been going on in Georgia.
Well, you know, in sort of shades of Eric Cantor's loss in the primary, where everyone thought one polling firm had him up by 35 points. Pretty much every poll. I mean, well, let's get back. Let me take a step back. There was a large primary of crazy people, also known as the Georgia Republican House Caucus. Mostly, all these House members were running for the seat, and some other people. The crazy woman from who what do you call it? Who got Komen in so much trouble? Mm-hmm. And you know, they had the top two, but neither of them got the required percent. I think it was 50%, right? It wasn't 40 like in some places. So the final two guys were Jack Kingston, who's a congressman, and David Perdue, who's cousin of the former governor Sonny Perdue, was the CEO, I think, of Reebok at one point. It's worth a ton of money. But he's sort of a first-time candidate, and he's already kind of proven that because he said a couple goofy things along the way that can be used against him. And what ended up happening is that he lost by 50.9 to 49.1. Jack Kingston lost, and that was the guy who they wanted because he was sort of the genial guy who smiles when he says right-wing crazy things and look, you know, seemed to have the most appeal. The Chamber of Commerce, which is interesting considering that David Perdue was a CEO, hated him because he's actually mentioned raising taxes, which you don't do that in front of the chamber, man. And so they supported Kingston, and polls are showing that Kingston was going to win, and he did not win. And I would say, you know, I haven't seen Michelle Nunn on the Democratic side, who obviously has a very famous family name, which helps. Her dad, Sam Nunn, having been a longtime senator, but she doesn't. She's not. I don't think she's been a particularly inspiring candidate. Why don't I just leave it at that? So I think it's going to improve Democratic chances. I'm not saying I necessarily would bet on the Democrats there, but I think it certainly puts it more into play because I don't think he is all that terrific a candidate from what I've seen so far.
What was interesting, I mean, you know, and I think I don't know if we mentioned this in the past, but not only did Elizabeth Warren campaign for Allison Grimes in Kentucky, she went to West Virginia as well, and was warmly received. And her message of economic populism really resonated in both those red states. And what's interesting is that Perdue took a bit of a beating from a lot of people there, and he was painted as, you recall that in February or March, maybe it was March, April of the 2012 GOP primary, Newt Gingrich got a bunch of money from Sheldon Adelson, poured it into a documentary, like a 30-minute documentary, basically attacking Mitt Romney as a one-percenter and a vulture capitalist, I think he called him.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
And that is what they tried to do with Perdue. He's eked by. But I guess the real question is...
well, they turned that up to 11, so to speak, for the general, because that was the thing, is that really what Newt Gingrich did is he sort of set the tone and basically set it up for Democrats to jump on top of that message and amplify it.
And wasn't it Georgia that Gingrich, that Romney did very poorly in Georgia? I mean, I think it was leading up to the Georgia primary. I don't know if Gingrich actually won that primary. I can't remember, but it was around that time, and I just wonder if. I mean, look,
Georgia and Georgia has some of those same issues. I mean, it's a state that's growing. You know, it's got the sort of new economy around Atlanta and some other, you know, smaller urban centers, but the rural areas have been hit hard, and there's no doubt that populism could play there.
And I would also say that African Americans make up 30% of the population in Georgia,
right.
And we have seen. Now, look, let's also preface this. We're going to be talking about how bad Nunn is a year from today if she's elected. We're going to be bemoaning the fact that she is standing in the way of legislation that we like. She's going to vote with Democrats, you know, who knows, 20, 30% of the time. The point is she's going to vote for Harry Reid to be Senate Majority Leader. That's the difference.
And she's come out, you know, she's for gay marriage. She's very pro-choice. She's, and really straightforward on all sorts of women's issues of pay equity and other. I mean, there are a number of things, and there's no doubt she'll drive us crazy on a number of things too. But right now we are talking about holding on to the Senate too. So
Right.
it makes it's not the luxury of, well, we have 57 or 56 seats. We could lose the Senate, and then this circus we've seen from the House is going to be extended to the Senate for the next 2 years.
Right. I mean, then we're going to have to spend all our time talking about impeachment, which I'm not convinced that we won't anyways, but it really makes a difference when it comes to judicial appointments, frankly, and to confirmation of executive agencies. So you've got these Moral Monday movement that was obviously is huge in North Carolina, but Georgia has had their own as well.
That's correct.
And this is what's going to be interesting. We keep hearing over and over again that the issue for Democrats in these off-year elections is turnout. And yet, in these two states, we have what appears to be at least a very, very motivated population that is also not. I don't know if it constitutes all of the Democratic base, but certainly a large percentage. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the irony of it all is that her name recognition helps her a lot because of her last name. But in a way, it may be the biggest albatross around her neck, too, because her dad, Sam Nunn, was literally one of the original founders of the DLC. I mean, he was as DLC as DLC gets. Will he and the people that used to be around him be advising her to swear off populism, and run as a moderate, right? Or so, I mean, what a moderate is in D.C., which essentially means being a neoliberal. And if she does that, then you'll see a lot of that excitement die. And so far, I haven't seen her push populist themes a lot, so I'm hoping she will. If she's smart enough to jump on that, as you just said, with what's going on with Moral Mondays, with what's going on in the state in general, the fact that this guy, they've already set the table for with what they've done to him, and he is going to be easy because of some of the dumb things he says, kind of like Mitt Romney. He's done a few of those already.
And he's also
show him to be out of touch.
His business, if I'm not mistaken, he had a business that he shut down. I mean, it's another story of outsourcing jobs.
That's
right. Kingston attacked Perdue for his experience at Pillow Techs. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's a company that makes like a really good pillow. I don't know. But it eliminated 7,000 jobs several months after Perdue took charge of the company. So I mean, maybe we don't. I guess we'll have to see if that theme resonates.